Hello and welcome, I'm Jesse. This is 616 Rebooted, the show where I review Marvel Comics and judge how they'd fit, or why they don't fit, into my totally unofficial reboot of the Marvel 616 universe. Just to be clear, I'm talking about the comics, not the MCU, and of course it's all just my opinion, man. Bub, this episode is all about Wolverine, specifically two related series. The first, a 6-issue series titled Wolverine the Origin from 2001 and 02, and the second, a 5-issue sequel titled Origin 2 from 2013-2014. The creative team for the first Origin series was Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada, and Paul Jenkins doing the writing and illustrating. The illustrating by Andy Kubert on pencils, Richard Isanove on the colors. And for Origin 2, we have Kieran Gillen writing, Adam Kubert as artist, Frank Martin on the colors, VC's Joe Caramanga on letters, and Kubert and Martin both doing the covers for the series. Well, what happens? Well, Origins begins in Alberta at the Howlett estate. It tells the story of Wolverine's youth, and the surprise is that it's a little tough to tell who Wolverine is. One of the first characters you're going to meet is the caretaker, a man named Logan, and who looks exactly like Wolverine. He's got a son who is called Dog Logan, and he's just the best dad ever, as you would imagine. Not really. And he works for the Howlett family anyway, and they have a son named James Howlett. A young, red-headed woman named Rose is arriving via horse and wagon, so you know it's the olden times. Dog and James grow up as friends, but also rivals, and Dog is also facing challenges at home. His dad's an alcoholic. A few years later, the boys start fighting over Rose's affections, and that gets the caretaker Logan fired from working at the Howlett estate, and he takes this very poorly and decides to get revenge. He ends up killing James Howlett, the father, I don't know, and then Wolverine is finally revealed. Wolverine is the young James Howlett. His claws manifest for the first time, and he kills Logan after he watches Logan kill his dad. And the comic doesn't necessarily make this super obvious, but they aren't really hiding it either. There are some obvious clues if you're paying attention. Mrs. Howlett and the caretaker Logan have been having an affair. James Howlett and Dog Logan are half brothers. After the aftermath of everything, James Howlett's mother, she's not at all happy with her son. She freaks out about her freakish son. But Rose is there and helps James escape. The two live a life on the frontier. For some reason, they travel as cousins after that. And Rose helps give James a new name to escape anyone looking for him for murder. And that name is Logan, which is just a horrible idea, except that it advances the plot. Anyway, because the two are traveling as cousins, they can't hook up, of course, and instead Rose begins to fall for a guy named Smitty, and perhaps in part because of this, Logan or James or Wolverine, however you want to call him, he starts embracing his animal side, getting in with some wolves, and he's having problems. He's getting along with wolves, and he's having problems getting along with the people at the work camp where they live. And everything goes great until Dog comes looking for James or Logan or what have you. He's mad. His face is scratched by Wolverine's claws from when that tragic night happened, and now he's learned that James Howlett has taken his name, and so he's got even one more reason for revenge. And in the eventual fight between the two, Rose is impaled on Wolverine's claws and is killed. And after that, Wolverine goes to live in the wilderness for good. Origin 2 picks up, it says, in 1907, still very much olden times. Wolverine is living in the woods still, hunting with a wolf pack, He fights a polar bear to the death. Mr. Sinister is out and about. He's looking for mutants. He's got some marauders with him too, and they're really very scary looking World War I style soldiers. But they don't get to Wolverine. Instead, he's captured by a circus who employ a tractor named Victor Creed, or excuse me, not Victor Creed, Creed and Clara. Eventually, Sinister does get his hands on Wolverine, though, and does his experiments, and he finds out he's got a healing factor, and Sinister's just loving that. He's found a mutant. Wolverine not so much loving it, but luckily, Clara and Creed are there to help him escape. Wolverine and Clara begin to fall for each other after that, and surprise, surprise, she never was with Creed. They are brother and sister. Wolverine and Creed then team up. He loses control again and kills Creed, even though Clara is begging him not to. He leaves back to the wilderness again, and in the aftermath, Creed's big brother shows up, and this is finally the reveal of Sabretooth, Victor Creed, and Clara tells him how Victor's little brother is dead. I really like the art in both of these series. It's great, and mind you, I'm not an artist, so my eye isn't as critical as most people. I'll always try to be honest with you, about what I like and don't like. But in fairness, I'm probably writing is more my forte, and that's where my eye is going to be a lot more critical. But regardless, when I do catch bad art, I'll try to point that out. Needless to say, I loved the art in this book, in both of these. I also love the tragedy and the repeated tragedies that happen to Wolverine as he grows up, often as a direct result of his inability to control his emerging mutant power. And I especially love that as a result of this tragedy, he descends into savagery. He's out there living with wolves, killing bears. It's just great stuff. I love the sacrifice Wolverine makes that lets Smitty win a cage match so that he and Rose can be happy together. I love Wolverine embracing his savage side and going out to live with wolves and fighting the bears, hiding from the world of men. That's just awesome, Wolverine. The fact that he gets caught in the circus is actually a pretty neat idea. I think it's a pretty cool idea to have him as an angry circus act. And overall, I think the symbolism of the book is good. I'm not personally a huge fan of the sort of direct symbolism that is in these books. Like Rose looks just like Jean Grey, or at least she's a redhead. And she's also this unobtainable woman who he's fallen in love with. And Dog is very similar to Sabretooth as a villain in many ways, and that's all great. But it's just not honestly my cup of tea. But it's well done, if that makes sense what I'm saying. I know a lot of people do like that sort of symbolism more than me, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I really love the mystery in both of these series. Reveals are really well done. Especially in the first series, and maybe a little bit less well done in the second, but still really good stuff. But there's some things I don't like. I don't like that he changes to the Logan name. Why would you change the name to the person you accidentally killed that you were on the run for killing? It's just insane. Speaking of Logan, the caretaker Logan is maybe just a little too spot on the nose for Wolverine's dad. If you just see the art and you don't see any words, it literally just, the first time you see him, it looks like a full-grown Wolverine is somehow transported back into the 1800s in the story of his own origin. And I'm not saying don't make the caretaker look like Wolverine, but I think you can give the caretaker Logan a little bit more of his own features while still maintaining a clear resemblance to his son, if that makes sense. I'm kind of meh on Sinister's appearance in this. I mean, he's cool as a bad guy. I do like him. His troopers, the Marauder unit as a World War I-esque stormtrooper unit, looks amazing. They're really scary. It's really cool also when Sinister is torturing Wolverine. But the point of this review is as part of a theoretical and unauthorized reboot, and I don't need Sinister in Wolverine's past. All right. I think the main issue then that I have with these two stories is if we're going to do a reboot, there's too many new characters. This is an origin story for Wolverine, a flashback. In the 616 universe in Marvel Comics, it's a flashback. In our hypothetical reboot, this story could serve as an origin story for Wolverine. Imagine a Marvel universe and then completely reboots and begins with a slate of comics that includes a Wolverine #1 in that first month. That would be really cool. What changes would I make to the story? In a reboot, I think we would want to transform these two stories, which I think are both good. The first maybe a little bit better than the second, but both are very good, into a single story. And that gives us, I think, makes the themes more powerful, and it gives us the ability to shed some of the extra characters that maybe we don't need in an origin. From the first origin series, so one of the changes we would make is we'd get rid of Dog and we're going to replace him with a young Victor Creed. And from the second series, Creed's brother and sister, and I know this is a big reveal, the first that the two are brother and sister, and the second that Creed is not Victor Creed but Victor's little brother. Well, in our hypothetical reboot, we're getting rid of both of these, and I think this is maybe a little bit less of a reveal, but there's some opportunity, I think, if we combine these stories, to retain the mystery when the two boys are young, as far as who is Sabretooth and who is Wolverine. But anyway, beyond that point, I think we can trim the story down. So here's the arc. The caretaker character, who we will not be calling Logan, and maybe not Creed either, I don't know, just whatever his name is, preserve some mystery, I think, if for no other reason. The caretaker is the father of both Wolverine and Sabretooth. They're half-brothers. Sabretooth ends up hating Logan for his privilege, for getting to live on the Howlett estate, and of course for killing their father. And secretly, perhaps, because Rose chose to run away with Wolverine and hide with him. Wolverine grows and struggles with his animalistic instincts. He's living with wolves and fighting bears still, and instead of being unable to get with Rose because they're pretending to be cousins, he breaks her heart with his inability to control his bestial instincts. He has to take to the wilds in his youth. Sabretooth is going to appear several times in our combined rebooted series. He's fighting Wolverine probably twice. The second time, Rose dies. The first, I think, will have Wolverine think he's won, not knowing that Sabretooth is going to heal and continue to track him. For additional plots, I think it's fine. Rose and Smitty can still get together, not Rose and Wolverine. Wolverine can still be captured by the circus. I'm a little ambivalent about Sinister. Like I said, I do like the Stormtrooper Marauders, but I'm okay without him. Maybe our reboot instead just focuses a bit more on Sabretooth's perspective as well during his hunting for Wolverine. Maybe how he's about to catch Wolverine, but the circus gets him first, and that throws him off. Anyway, so in summation, obviously I judge this book to be good in a reboot. In fact, as much as I love the secrecy of Wolverine's origins, trust me, I was born in 1981. I'm a total 90s kid. I was obsessed with Wolverine when I was young, with learning anything I could about his origins. But nowadays, I think Wolverine is old enough as a character, and he's iconic enough that I think he's grown beyond that a bit. In terms of Marvel icons, I think he's second only to Spider-Man. I think really on a Mount Rushmore of Marvel characters, you've got Spider-Man as number one, and then in some order that I'm not sure about, Wolverine, Captain America, and Hulk. And after the movies, you could argue maybe that Iron Man should be up there, but that's a conversation, frankly, for another day. In our theoretical reboot of the 616 Marvel Universe, I think Wolverine's origin is well known enough that it doesn't require the mystery, and it could simply be revealed naturally in a Wolverine book. So the only other thing on my mind is that I might change the timeline of the character. This is maybe going to be even more controversial than my idea that Marvel should engage in a hard reboot for the starters, but I think Wolverine should not be born in the frickin' 1800s. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure where I'd place him, but somewhere in the early 60s, as a child running away with Rose seems better. The 1960s, that is. And at the end of the story, that means he'll be starting to come of age in time for some potential military service in a later comic. Maybe he fights in Vietnam. That could be a one way for him to end up in Japan. But I'm not actually sure where to start him. Maybe an even later date works. I don't think it's too unrealistic for a younger pair to hide out in Alaska or northwestern Canada up until fairly recently, especially in a Marvel world. And at any rate, if we were going to reboot the Marvel universe, and say have the Fantastic Four begin in, say, 2025 or 2026, something like that, maybe the X-Men are formed by, 2027, 2028 at the latest, if not in the year 2025, shortly after the Fantastic Four. And anyway, the point of all this is that if that's the case, when do we want Wolverine's adamantium to be bonded to his skeleton? In the late 90s or the early 2000s, I think, is the earliest, in my opinion, if not a little later. And basically, what we're looking for in a Wolverine character in Reboot is a Wolverine to be mature enough to be cynical, very experienced, and if a mentally broken individual who is going to join the X-Men at some point. I just don't need him to be 100 years old or older. Even if he's just like 40 in our hypothetical universe, and say 2030, and joins the X-Men in 2030, that would put him years and years ahead, age-wise, of the other students who are going to be like teenagers, maybe in their early 20s. And with the students he's going to join with, and that's going to make him old enough still, if he's like 40, 50, 60 years old enough to show that he's not really aging very fast. So anyway, these are all questions that I consider. But for now, why don't we just take a look at this early timeline here? We have Thor, we have Wolverine. We're going to keep track of the stories we keep and those we don't, and to create our master plan for the reboot. And when necessary, we're going to continue to edit our rebooted timeline, so good luck to us. And with that said, I'd like to end with some questions for you. What do you think? Should the 616 be rebooted? Or do you think Marvel's, say, their 14-year sliding timeline still holds up after all these decades? Am I crazy for wanting to put Wolverine's history to move it up in time in a reboot? Let me know in the comments what you think. You've got anyway a little bit more than a minute before this amazing song ends anyway. Next episode, we're gonna focus on Captain America, as well as Bucky, a little bit of Namor, the original Human Torch. Here is on the screen our list of comics. We're getting that from the Marvel Master Reading Order that you can find on comicbookreadingorders.com, link in the comments. And until next time, friends, you can make mine Marvel.